First of all, happy Children's Day. I think it's generally said that you should remain childlike throughout your life. At the same time, I think we all need to grow up. And I think sustainability is all about growing up and growing up sensibly. So, my greetings to everyone on Children's Day. And we are extremely thrilled at the participation of the private sector, the governments, and NGOs and other organizations in this annual meeting, which has happened in physical form after several years. And the lesson that I'm taking from this is that we are all keen to get together, talk about the problems that confront society, humanity, the planet. And there is also an urge to find solutions. Because it's not about talking, it's about finding solutions, and it is about finding the right way in getting to our goals. So I want to thank the Asset for organizing this discussion today, this forum. Sustainability is a topic which is extremely relevant, as I said, and more so in the Asia Pacific region. As we face unprecedented global challenges such as climate change, persistent inflation, and social inequality, it is becoming more and more apparent that we need to take a more sustainable approach to financial decision making. Even though I understand that everybody in this room has a view on sustainable finance, understands what sustainable finance is, but to put it in very simple terms, sustainable finance is all about investing money in a way that takes into account the environmental, social, and governance considerations. Sustainable finance aims to create long-term value for investors, while at the same time, and that's important, minimizing the negative impacts of economic activities on the environment and communities, hence contributing to the overall well-being of society. Sustainable finance, as we understand it in ADB, can be used to fund projects, programs, assets that create jobs, improve access to utilities, healthcare, education, and other basic needs, and promote social inclusion. By investing funds that support these goals, we can help to reduce inequality and promote sustainable economic growth. In recent years, sustainable finance has gained significant momentum, and governments, businesses, and investors are increasingly recognizing the importance of ESG considerations. And I believe that the balance sheet and the annual report is no longer a statement of the company's health. It is or should be able to capture both corporate social responsibility and larger human commitments that can sustain profitability of any business. Many countries have introduced regulations to promote sustainable finance, and companies are starting to report on their ESG considerations, ESG performance. We all know that climate change is one of the biggest threats facing our planet today. Sustainable finance has a crucial role to play in addressing this challenge by investing in clean energy, urban infrastructure, sustainable agriculture, and other environmental friendly projects. And the sectors that I've mentioned, they are very pertinent to Asia and Pacific region because the pace of urbanization is picking up. In some parts, it's already picked up. But there are large parts of this region where urbanization is still happening and will pick up pace For example, in a country like India, it's estimated that almost 70% of the urban infrastructure is yet to be created. Uh, and this is based on a report which was done by uh, Isha Judge Eluwalia on what India's urbanization will look like by 2050. So that is the scale of growth which is required. And the same applies to agriculture. For example, the amount of water that is consumed in growing essential crops in a country like India, which has a huge population, uh, in terms of paddy, it could be 10 times of the water that is consumed, say, in a country like Japan for growing paddy. So there are vast areas where we need to do a lot of work, research, find innovative technologies, and apply them in a pragmatic way. Now, in response to the impact of climate change, ADB has stepped up its uh, efforts. It hopes to be the climate bank of Asia and Pacific. And in that regard, you would have heard that the climate finance ambition of ADB has been increased from $80 billion between 2019 and 2030 to $100 billion. Further, there is a commitment that by 2025, all operations of ADB will be Paris aligned, and this is in keeping with what the multilateral development banks have all agreed to do. Yesterday, ADB launched a new program that will expand our capacity to respond climate change. This new program is called IFCAP, the Innovative Finance Facility for Climate in Asia and the Pacific. It's a global first, both in scale and scope. Uh, Let me briefly tell you what IFCAP aims to do. It will multiply ADB's lending capacity through leverage by allowing us to crowd in substantially more resources from the private sector and other investors who share our commitment to climate action. The program is based on the use of financial guarantees from our partners. As of now, Denmark, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and the United States have joined this, but the doors are open and we would welcome more partners in this. By guaranteeing a portfolio of ADB's sovereign loans, they will help to shoulder some of the loss in case of a credit event in one of our borrowers. This will reduce the capital ADB needs to hold for credit risk, freeing up capital for a substantial increase in lending to climate projects. IFCAP financing will support both mitigation projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adaptation projects to build resilience to the impacts of climate change. In ADB's endeavor, the private sector is essential to ensuring the transition to net zero, something which I was just discussing with Rajiv. The scale of investment needed is beyond what the public sector can provide. Fortunately, sustainable finance from private sources, in particular green and social finance, is growing rapidly and brings many benefits. It meets the growing sustainability appetite of our stakeholders, it mitigates sustainability risks, and broadens the financing base for projects, and it will bring positive environmental and social outcomes. The most important step towards scaling up sustainable finance is to mobilize more private sector capital. The private sector has access to significant amounts of funds and can help bring innovative financing solutions to the market, including local currency, project finance loans, green and blue bonds, sustainability linked loans, and funded and unfunded risk participation structures. And this is just to name a few. We see a strong trend amongst our clients in our developing member countries towards operating on ESG principles. And ADB will continue to provide capacity building, knowledge, and financing to support our developing member countries in sustainable development. Let me briefly highlight the key areas where ADB is working to scale up sustainable finance and mobilize private capital in Asia and the Pacific. But before I do that, uh, anticipatory bail from the organizers, I might exceed my time. First, ADB is addressing upstream policy challenges that are hindering private investment in infrastructure. Our work includes support to improving regulatory frameworks, institutional reforms, and capacity building of government agencies via our sovereign operations and the Office of Public Private Partnership. Incidentally, I look after both of them. Second, ADB is working midstream with public sector agencies to structure infrastructure projects that are bankable and commercially viable through our PPP transaction advisory services and project preparation support via the Asia Pacific Project Preparation Facility, AP3F as it is called, which is a trust fund managed by ADB. One recent example is the 457 megawatt Sharabat solar PPP project in Uzbekistan, which is the largest solar power project in Central Asia and was developed, structured, and tendered via ADB's PPP transaction advisory support to the government of Uzbekistan. Third, ADB is working downstream directly with private sector clients to invest jointly in sustainable infrastructure projects. For example, ADB recently led the structuring and financing of the 600 megawatt monsoon wind power project in Laos, which is the largest wind power project in ASEAN and will export power to Vietnam. I can see Suzanne and Jackie smiling because they were the architects of this project. ADB successfully mobilized private sector funds via a B loan structure and also structured grants and concessional financing to improve the bankability of the project for the private sector. Other relevant examples include ADB's sustainability linked loan to Indonesian company PT Dharma Satya Nusantara to help the company expand sustainable wood processing, rural livelihood development, and climate resilient agroforestry in Java, and ADB's Gender Bond project, which is the first gender bond in Georgia that provides financing to women owned micro, small, and medium sized enterprises, an important but underbanked sector of the Georgian economy. Fourth, we are helping the region transition away from coal based energy via the Energy Transition Mechanism, ETM for short. ETM aims to accelerate the retirement of coal fired power plants, increase demand for clean energy, and lower overall energy costs. And this is something which probably needs a greater discussion, and maybe you'll find time to dwell on ETM a bit longer. Fifth, to catalyze early stage investments to scale technology solutions for impact in Asia and the Pacific, our facility, ADB Ventures, aspires to be a leading impact tech support platform with a robust portfolio of investments. ADB Venture has invested in several early stage tech companies with the aim to deliver meaningful impacts towards sustainable development goals. These are but a few examples, and we need to continue to promote sustainable finance and encourage more investors to allocate their capital towards sustainable projects. We need to foster partnerships and collaboration between governments, the private sector, and civil society to promote sustainable finance. This can be achieved by creating platforms for dialogue and cooperation and promoting transparency and accountability in sustainable finance financial investments. This event, I would like to believe, is one such dialogue. I would invite you to engage with ADB as we want to hear your perspective on the barriers and opportunities to scaling up sustainable finance and mobilizing private capital in Asia Pacific. We have to work together to scale up sustainable finance in order to achieve a carbon neutral future by creating a region built on green investments that ensure resilient, sustainable economic growth for all. In fact, I am reminded that a few years ago, before the Paris Agreement was negotiated, when I was Secretary Environment in India, a huge business delegation came to me and talked to me about the difficulties of getting environment clearances. And they said, we urge your ministry to be business friendly. And I said, yes, we will be business friendly. We are business friendly, but you must promise to be environment friendly. And I think it is this combination, this balance that we need to achieve. Let me end by saying that sustainable finance is not the financing that merely sustains itself. That is crucial, but more importantly, sustainable finance is about intelligent, imaginative, and sensitive financing that can help us and the planet survive longer than what clever and smart financing in the past did. The risk-return equation needs a rethink and should capture or should be able to capture the risk of not investing in areas that don't bring fancy returns in the near term, but the kind of investment which will help us reap benefits in the longer term. Now, of course, people might say that in the long term we are all dead. But till then, we can work towards improving our environment and the quality of life for all, especially for those who may not have adequate resources to deal with what is a collective problem of humanity. I thank you for this opportunity and I thank you for your patience.